Okay, so I'm gonna get started on the knife that time forgot. So I already did one video on it, which I just talked about the different handle materials, and I said I was gonna talk about why I chose the steel I chose to, but I'm just gonna do that later because I'd rather just do this right now. Somebody told me that if I got a little bit more into the process of how I make a knife, it'd be more interesting. So I'm gonna try that, but if I get tired of it or bored, I'll stop. Um, so the first thing I do is, well, I draw the design I'm gonna do, and this one I already cut it out. So I draw it, and then I just cut it out with just a regular box cutter. Um, you just need something in the back to, not to cut through all your paper and stuff. There's little problems with the drawing itself. Like you see, this is all wonky right here. But I'm gonna fix that once I have this on. Like once I put this on the steel, and I start cutting it out from the steel, I'll just fix that. I'll shape it because I cut out everything, and then after that, I just I shape everything. I go over everything a little bit more just to make sure everything looks good. Um, One of the main things, so like let's say you're making this knife's gonna have a handguard. So one of the main things to do, just a heads up, is just double check your little your measurements here. So I mean, just for design wise, this is something also you can just mess with after you cut it out, but it's a lot easier to do it right now. So here's where the handguard's gonna be. It's gonna be something like this, and it is 1 inch wide. So you want the widest part of your knife to be also of your knife's handle to be 1 inch wide too. So that checks out. Just because the hole you make for the handguard is gonna have to slip in through all the way to the top. Other thing is sometimes when you have different shapes, you can actually you can just finagle it in. So if you have like a curvature or something like that, you can do a certain measurement, and then you can just draw a line on paper and just see if it actually will go through. That's something that helps. So I already had to cut it out. Next, I'm going to just draw it on. Just transfer this template on a piece of steel on the steel I'm going to cut out. So I'm not going to go through every single thing. I'm just going to give you an idea of what I do. The camera gets in the way a lot. So this is the first part. Oh, and just in case anybody's wondering, this is 80-pound just art paper. I had an art class a long time ago, and this is the art paper I used for the art class. So I just ended up using this, but it works. So just 80-pound, which is like this is the most important part. Just thick. Okay, so next I'll just transfer it on the steel itself. Okay, then just to transfer it on the steel itself, I just use a Sharpie, but the Sharpie I use, it's the industrial, the super permanent Sharpie. So I used to use a regular Sharpie, and with the actual heat that comes off of this thing, so when you're cutting it out and stuff like that, it'll evaporate. It'll just come right off. This one will actually get lighter too, but it won't actually evaporate. So you have something to go by better. So when you're sitting there doing cuts or whatever, it won't just disappear on you. And then just so if you see here, it like barely fits. The only other thing I can tell you, I guess, is just like hold your paper down, your template. Once you have it where you want it, just hold it down constantly, like right where you want it, and then after that, you just it doesn't matter if you go on your template. I'll show you when I'm done. But just mark everything. You can just marker the paper itself, and the steel. It doesn't really matter where you're going, as long as you're pressing down and you're not coloring underneath the paper, you're fine. So I'll draw this and then I'll show you. All right, and so here's the template on the piece of steel itself. So kind of wonky, but I mean that's what you always get. So this is just supposed to be, an outline kind of. I mean, obviously it's an outline, but it's just something to go by. So don't try to be like crazy precise. So the main thing is, once you're cutting it out, feel it in your hand. Check out how it feels. Oh, and this actually, you can kind of tell. So this thing too, you can kind of tell where the weight is going to be on your. So like, let's say you make a template out of anything. You can actually tell how well balanced it's going to be. I mean, without the scales, of course. So I mean, and I'll show you once I cut this piece of steel out. It's going to be a little bit different, but the weight on this is like right about there. So I'll cut out the piece of steel and show you the weight too. I mean, the balance point. So kind of off topic, but that's something you can do too. Like, let's say you're designing a knife or whatever, and you kind of want to get where the weight is, or you're trying to make a chopper or make something well balanced or whatever. Drawing it out, cutting it out, kind of gives you an idea. You still have to, the scales itself. So if the point's right here, the scales itself is gonna probably bring it down to here maybe by the time I'm done, but we'll see. All right, so I'm gonna cut this out, and the way I cut it out is just an angle grinder. I'll just show you like how I fixed it onto the table I have, and then I'll get started on it. Okay, so now I'm just gonna cut out the shape from the steel, and all right, so all I use is basically an angle grinder, super cheapy Harbor Freight angle grinder, sweetness, and just a clamp. I'm gonna put another clamp here, but I wanted to show you something. So this is not a tutorial, okay? This is the rest, whatever, it doesn't matter. But this part is not a tutorial, so just so nobody gets hurt or whatever trying what I'm doing. So I'm just gonna cut it all with the angle grinder, and I'm going to shape it a little bit with the angle grinder. So I don't want to touch the line. And the other thing is, I mean, you can get as close as you can to it, but the other thing is too, you got to remember that what you're cutting with is a circle. So just to show you what I mean, so you're cutting with a circle, and you have to, there we go, you have to remember that this is a straight cut right here. Like, let's say you're cutting this piece of steel and you're going like this when you're cutting it. This is a straight cut. This, see, now the steel you're cutting, the bottom piece is longer than the top piece. So like this, both pieces are the same. Like this, bottom piece is longer. So you just got to remember that. So you don't want to be cutting this. Well, I don't want to be cutting this. I don't want to sound like a tutorial. It's not a tutorial. All right. So I don't want to be cutting this, and then get down here. This is like the worst case scenario. I'm basically like cutting like this, where the top piece is longer, and I'm cutting like right next to the line, and then when I flip it over, I just cut into the template. So that's one thing I have to watch out for. Super cheapy cutoff wheel too. That's one of the things I have to watch out for. And then what I'm gonna use, just what I like to use is just like a welding jacket, and then just like face mask, eye protection, and then just I'm not welding or anything, but I wear just like cotton clothing. I don't want to wear like polyester or something plasticky, so if in case it does catch on fire, it doesn't like melt on me. So those are the main things. Oh, and then the point I was going to make for this, so right now I have a lot of grip here. So once I put this clamp on here, I'm gonna have a lot of grip there. But if I were to cut this side first, I have like this tiny little thing, you know, where the handle is to grip on, and I don't want to put, you know, a ton of pressure on just that while I'm cutting out this. So I don't want to cut this first, and then this. I want to cut this, have a ton of like a lot of area to put the clamps on, you know, and a lot of material so it doesn't bend. I want to look at what I'm doing first and just, you know, picture it in my head first, and then do it. So I'm gonna clamp this side first, cut this out, and then do that second. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'll come back. Okay, so it may sound a little bit muffled. I'm wearing my face mask. So here it is, basically the template cut out. So it's just roughly cut out. It's still hot, so I do wear these gloves while I'm cutting and stuff. Not just because of the heat, well, mainly for the heat, because I can move it around and stuff while I'm cutting, just to be able to get everything. Almost got away from me there, almost. But the other reason to wear gloves is, see all these little sharp pieces? What? Look at this guy. All these little sharp pieces. See, that's no good. They can get you pretty good. So now, so obviously I gotta work on this. I might have to take some of this tip off, or thin this out, the belly out. So we'll see. I'll take a look at it. Here I have to work with the file, just regular, just the bastard file, round file here. But this I'm just gonna use a grinder, just to get rid of all this, a grinder. And here, just a round file for this little part. And I'm going to round out the top, make it look like a needle. And I don't know if I'm gonna round out the top all the way to the tip, because see how small this tip is and how thin this material is? The problem with rounding it out is I'll take too much material off. We'll see. I'll think about it. I might round it out and then just round out the top a little bit, but not so much the sides towards the tip. We'll see about that. A lot of this is just playing by ear. You have an idea, you have a plan, and then while you go along, you just your plan changes slightly. You add, you subtract. You have to just go by, because not because you're making a lot of mistakes necessarily, just because, I mean, so far it's coming out like I wanted it to. It's because what you want might change along the way. So and there will be mistakes too, and you'll have to work around those too. But the main thing is being able to adapt or to change what you want, not be rigid. Just if something, oh, actually, let me see. So on the paper, yeah, you see that? So on the paper itself, this was the balance point. And now, let me see, I'll bring the paper over. Still pretty hot and still pretty sharp, but whatever. All right, so let me bring the paper over. I mean, just on design wise. So if you ever want to do a design, so here's the balance point on my piece of paper, and this works for everything. This works for like if you make a cardboard knife, if you make a what do you call it, plywood or whatever knife. So it's hot over here more than it is over here. So oh, I don't know why I'm shaking. Okay, there we go. All right, stop shaking. Okay, there we go. So there's a balance point too. As you can see, it's the same balance point as the paper. So like I said, once I take off all this, once I basically, like, because I'm gonna have to take material off to get the edge. once I take the material off, once I add the handles, so instead of being here, it's gonna go probably right here, my guess, and we'll see about that too. So other thing, when you and I'll do that tomorrow, when you do grind the edge for this, you have to leave a little bit, so you can't sharpen it all the way. You have to have your thickness a certain thickness so that it doesn't get wavy when they heat treat it. I'll go over that again, I guess, tomorrow. Okay, so now I'm just gonna clean this up. I'm gonna go over it with the file and all that stuff, and then I'll come back. All right. Okay, so just to show you some of the stuff I'm using then for the grinding part. This is it's a Makita. It's a here's the information on it. 3/8 by 21 inches. So it's a little belt grinder, and I'm using this, and then also what is it, 4x36, just a 4x36 belt grinder from Harbor Freight. So that's what I use to do the sharpening and everything too. So far I decided to just basically do both. So I reduced the tip a little bit. It was out to here just a little bit, and then also I reduced the belly just a little bit too. Now what's left is here's the coffin handle. I just eyeball this instead of like doing measurements and stuff. I like eyeballing things instead of like, you know, trying to do precise measurements and all this crazy stuff. So just preference. I mean, there's no I think it'd probably be better to do all the crazy like measurements, but not crazy measurement, but just to do all the measurements. But I like going by eye. It just seems more personal to me for whatever reason. It's just what I do. So these little spots here, I'm gonna have to grind this out by hand with a round file, and now I'm gonna have to grind this out, and then just a little bit probably here. This is actually kind of fine. But I gotta grind this out by hand too, so I have to measure this, make sure it's still thinner than this, I mean, it's still wider than this. So I have to basically be able to fit the handguard here. So, and I have to be able to go over this. So, and then when I do this, I have to make sure this and this are in line so I don't get some wonky handguard. So I'll do that by hand. So for now, this is all I'm gonna do, and then I'll just work on this. I'm gonna work on it tomorrow, but I don't know when I'll post the other video for this, the next part. But so it's gonna go grinding. I'm gonna do the edge, and I'll talk about what choice I'll take on the edge itself. I don't have too much stock to work with, so I can't go too thin. I can't go too way back because then it'll be insanely thin. Maybe I will. I don't know. I'll see tomorrow. So yeah. Okay. So that's it for this video, and then I'll show one more time after I'm done grinding those parts. Okay. All right. Bye.